Hey, how you doing? I thought today we'd stop at Popeyes Chicken. Let's see what we got. That's a big box of chicken. Mac and cheese. Coleslaw. Lemonade. I love lemonade. Yeah. That's tasty. All right. Have a little bit of that coleslaw. Yeah. Not bad. Almost got away. Now. Mac and cheese looks good. Biscuit and chicken tenders today. Yeah. Now, honey mustard sauce. I like that with my chicken. That's good. Chicken's good. Mac and cheese is pretty good. Just not as good as my grandmother used to make. She made some really good mac and cheese. Coleslaw is pretty good too. You know, my grandmother lived in the same house her entire life. And she lived quite a while. I know some people still live in the same house, that they've had for 30 or 40 years or whatever. But it just seems kind of odd to me because I move around so much, Starting with the Navy, always moving around, and then even in the civilian world, I've owned a lot of different houses. moved around a lot. But I still remember all the stuff about her house. I used to spend a fair amount of time there when I was young. Weekends mostly. But her and my grandfather built that house back when they first got married. And she lived there her whole life. Well, my grandfather lived there his whole life too, but he didn't live near as long as my grandmother did. But they lived there the whole time. Not a very big house, of course. Uh, she was born in around 1918 or so, and lived through the Depression and all that. And of course, they didn't have much money, and they built the house themselves. So it was a smaller house, plenty for what they needed, you know. But I remember she didn't have a washroom, and she didn't have a washing machine. She had a wash tub. So it was just a round tub, and it had 4 legs on it with these little wheels. And she kept a wash tub in the corner of the kitchen. So there in the one corner was always that wash tub. And then she had a little round kitchen table with 4 chairs in the middle of the kitchen area, right beside the kitchen sink and stuff. I was able to watch her doing laundry a couple of times, and I was always fascinated by that wash tub thing. So she would wheel it over to the kitchen sink, and there was a little hose that she would hook to the kitchen faucet and turn the faucet on so it would fill up with water. And then she would put the laundry detergent in there, you know. And that wash tub was not automated. There was a switch on it that she would flip. And there was a little agitator device in the center of the tub. So when she got it all filled with everything, she would turn this little agitator on with a switch. Let it sit there for a little while. Like I said, it wasn't automated timing cycles or anything. And then when she figured it was long enough, she would turn that off, And there was another hose hooked to a little pump on the bottom of the thing that she would put that hose into the sink and flip another little switch, and it would pump all the water out from the washing cycle. When that was pumped out, she would put more water in to rinse the clothes, and then do the same thing, pump that back into the kitchen sink. But that's the way it used to be. Now, normally on a modern washing machine, there would be a spin cycle where it spins the clothes to get all the moisture out of them that it can before you would put them in the dryer. This wash tub had two wooden rollers that sat just over the tub, and they would spin in an opposite direction. So there was a switch. She would flip that switch on, and the rollers would start to spin opposite of each other. So that wringer, they would call it, was to get the moisture out of the clothes once they were washed. So she would feed the clothes into the wheels, the rollers, and it would start to pull them in. And I remember she used to always tell me, don't get your fingers close to those two rollers because it could pinch your skin, and could possibly mash your fingers and pull, by pulling your fingers in. She was always careful about that. So she would feed those clothes into the wringer part, and then the clothes would come out on the back because the rollers were only about 2 or 3 inches in diameter, maybe. She would feed the clothes out then and put them into the wash basket, Once she had them in the wash basket, of course, she didn't have a dryer, so she would take them out to the wash line and hang them on the wash line. So when she was all done with the wash, and she pumped all that water out from the final wringing the clothes out, then she would unplug the wash tub, put the hoses back inside it, and then just wheel it back over to the corner of her kitchen where it always stayed. I remember her stove in that kitchen too. Large, white, metal, heavy looking stove. Certainly wasn't a standard size like you would have in your kitchen today. It sat against the one wall of the kitchen. And instead of having like a vent hood that you would think about today, there, right up above the stove where the burners were, there was a hole in the wall that went straight through the wall. And there was a fan with a pull chain on it so that you could pull the chain up and it would come out of the two little latches and let it go, and there was a spring-loaded flap on the outside and the fan would come on. And it, like I said, it was right above the burners, and you would pull that chain up and let the little door open out there and it would just turn on. You don't see those often today. I think they're still probably around and maybe people could still use them. But mostly today it's vent fans with like a vent hood type of an arrangement. That are either vented to the outside of your house, or sometimes it's just the fan and a filter that just recirculates the air within itself. That biscuit's not bad either. It's like buttermilk or something. It's not bad. But that fan kind of fascinated me too when I was younger, because you could see right through the wall when the little fan was on and the door was open to it. But it worked. It certainly would, draw any excess odor or smoke, anything, because it was right above where the four burners were and stuff. As a younger child, looking back on stuff, it's like, wow, that stuff was really fascinating back then. I remember her her sewing machine. Also, there was no electric to that. A treadle sewing machine with the large pedal at the bottom for your feet. And you would just pump up and down with your feet, and it would drive almost like a rawhide string that went up through the machine to the top of where the sewing machine was, and that's what was used to spin all of the parts of the sewing machine. Yep. And she never had any different kind of sewing machine. That's the one she used forever. It was a Wheeler and Wilson model. It always sat along the wall in the living room. And it was pretty ornate, you know, like it had 4 drawers on it. Small drawers like this big and maybe this deep. But it's like they were carved wood on the fronts of the drawers with these little ornate handles, you know, to pull them in and out. It looked like a piece of furniture. Because there was also a cover, you know, that went over the part that was the actual sewing machine. So it looked nice sitting in the living room. I'm sure that's why they made them that way. You know, when they built that house, they never put any closets in it. You know, I guess from the building point of view, it was easier to just put the walls up, you know, with no closets. But when I think back, there were no closets at all. So she had a cedar chest that was her closet. I guess technically it's a cedar closet because it was tall. It was, maybe a little over 5 foot tall or so, and about 3 foot wide. And it had these two wooden doors on it, and it was lined with cedar. And it had the bar at the top, to hang clothes all up in the top, and then it had like a drawer part at the bottom. But that's what they used for all their hanging clothes. And then, of course, in her bathroom there was the old clawfoot tub. No shower, just a clawfoot tub sitting there along the wall. So the tub sat on the one side of the bathroom there, and then mounted on the wall was, your normal white porcelain sink. And it had those sort of plus sign looking hot and cold handles on it. And chain with the rubber stopper, so you could put the stopper in the sink. None of this pull lever, and the stopper goes up or down. It was just the rubber stopper on a chain. And no medicine cabinet. Not like you would think of one today, but right outside the door of the bathroom, which led into the kitchen, was the medicine cabinet. So it was about 1.5 foot square white cabinet with a little metal door on it. And I remember when you would open the door of that thing, the mixture of smells from all the chemicals and stuff that were inside there. Like, cod liver oil and mercurochrome and all that more old-timey stuff that people don't really use much of today. Coke syrup for upset stomachs and stuff. But that cabinet was loaded with different bottles of stuff that were like real old-fashioned looking bottles and everything. And then outside, just outside of the front door, she had a little concrete slab, for like a front porch. And on her front porch, she had 2 metal rocking chairs that would always sit there with like a little metal table in between the 2 rocking chairs, And when I would stay over there, like on a weekend, we would sit out there and toward the evening and sit on those rocking chairs and drink iced tea, because she made some great iced tea. She used to put oranges and lemons in the iced tea, which was really good. I never did perfect how to make that tea that good. But that was some good tea. Well, that's about it for this meal. Until next time, take care of yourself, and I'll see you later.